Everybody, it's your host, Rob Keynes with the Freedom Report. This is coming to you on November 6, 2024, post-election edition. I want to briefly touch on the election, but we're going to get into talking about the gold and silver markets and what we're seeing post-election and some of my thoughts on that overall. Not a lot of data and charts today. I'm just going to speak to you about maybe the way to look at things and what the effects of the election could be. So let's dive into it. So Trump has been declared the winner. That has had an effect on markets. The Dow has jumped. The bond market rates have jumped. Gold and silver are down overall. A lot of the financial markets are just in a euphoric stage. And I wanted to warn people about that euphoric stage. First, I wanted to say this before we talk about that. When you have a presidential election, the people look at it as a referendum on how the people feel about the direction of the country, not only from a political perspective, but a cultural one. Because politics is usually, or basically always is, manifestation or downstream from culture. And this is a lot of people getting out and voting based upon the way they feel about that. Whether you're on his side or not on his side or how you feel about that's not really the topic of the discussion here. The topic of the discussion is that the president doesn't control the economy. Now, the president can do a lot of things to affect the economy. Simply speaking from the bully pulpit or speaking things can be very powerful. The spoken word can be very powerful. The bills that they sign into law, the executive orders that they write on how the government needs to be run. Now, it still should, isn't always, but should be run by executive order or presidential direction, how, the Congress has set it up and how the Supreme Court has ruled on interpreting those laws. And a lot of times it's not. A lot of times, we know presidents from either side have gotten in there and put out executive orders that we look at and say, is that really truly constitutional? But in any case, the president doesn't control everything. The euphoria is because the people vote the president in, and the Congress. There's been a lot of change in Congress. It looks like the Republicans have gained a couple of seats in the Senate. The House is still up for grabs. We're still counting votes on that. Last I checked, this is about 11 a.m. in the morning Central Time when I'm recording this. I'm going to put it out a little bit early today because we didn't do one last night because of election night. I wanted election night to happen, and then I wanted to have this talk with you after. But in any case, the president doesn't control everything. So there's going to be a lot of euphoria. There's going to be a lot of new people coming to office. The Republicans at least have the presidency in the Senate, and they may get the House for a clean sweep. We'll see what happens there. But even though that's the case, I wanted to talk about the effects of what that could mean. If you look at who Trump is going to have in his cabinet and who he's brought on board but he's going to put on all these official roles. He's going to be addressing health. He's going to be addressing the economy. He's going to be addressing immigration. He's going to be addressing the monetary system. He's going to be addressing a lot of things. He's talked about maybe getting rid of income taxes. I mean, a lot of things there are going to cause a lot of euphoria. Essentially, we could see a big reduction in what we spend. Now, I'm going to put this in on the side of I'll believe that when I see it. Not because I doubt what he says coming into office. I think people mean things when they get elected, but once you get into the bureaucracy and you start trying to take away that punch bowl from this massive government that's been built up since, over time, but specifically 1913, the creation of the Federal Reserve, and the dollar becoming a reserve asset and then becoming this explosive fiat asset, which is print, seemingly no abandon, especially the last 50 years. You look at that, and I don't think the government's going to want to cut. So he can bring in, Elon Musk to address government waste. President Reagan tried that. A lot of people have tried that. It's very difficult for the president to remove all the waste. You basically have to have the Congress as well coming in with the same identification, the same plan in synergy with the president. And you have to have both the House and the Senate and the president all saying, we're going to do this. Now, has that happened in American history? It's very rare that we've actually cut spending substantially across the board. Maybe this time it happens. Maybe at the end of the day, it's part of God's plan, and this is why they're in office, and maybe that's going to happen. We'll see. I think there's more to speak to about that point later. But I would just caution everybody to say that may occur over the next 4 years. It may even put plans in place to occur over the next 10 to 20. And hopefully, if it does, they don't get reduced by the next government, whether it's Republican or Democrat or whatever. But it just doesn't happen historically. So I want to temper a little bit of the enthusiasm just a bit and say that it could happen. But even if it does, that doesn't affect things that are already broken and messed up in this economy. If you look at what I talked about on my last video, I talked about a Twitter post from Finance a lot talking about liquidity of the central banks and how the European and central bank and our central bank, the Fed, have been reducing liquidity since mid to late 2022. And November 11th could be an inflection point with regards to liquidity. It could be another repo market crisis. The banks no longer have that, bank short-term financing that they had when they experienced trouble spring of last year that they've had for about a year and a half now. That extra liquidity pumped into the system. So that liquidity is sort of coming to a head on or about a week from yesterday, a week from the election. And about this time next week, we may be talking banking crisis. We may be talking those types of things. Now, the liquidity may have to dry up, and then it may take a little while for that to be found and have effect in the bond markets and in the debt markets and in the money markets and all those markets. But it eventually will be felt, and it'll be felt this year. So unless the central bank sort of reverse course and throw some more easy money back in, or somehow magically something else happens that none of us is counting on to the positive, which could from a spiritual sense, but from an everyday sense, I don't see that on the immediate horizon. Our financial problems haven't been solved. So the dollars, even though the DXY is going to soar through the election, the bonds are going to soar. That's all short term. The bond rates going up on the election is just euphoria, people piling in. But actually, bond rates going up is bad for the economy because it costs more to pay for that debt. And typically, bond rates have been going up for the negative reasons, for the fact that we have too much debt, the fact that $36 trillion in debt, the debt to GDP ratio, the dollar losing purchasing power, bloat in our economy, that kind of thing, a weakened consumer. So until those things turn around, until the abused, if you will, turn around, and we either have like a debt jubilee or something along those lines. And I think at that point, it's not going to occur because the president and a new Congress. I think it'll be more spiritual. I think it'd be a spiritual action that would actually cause us to embolden the people here on the ground to do things, to do like a debt jubilee, and to reverse the stealing of all the wealth from the people to the bankers and the merchant class and all that kind of stuff. That's not going to happen just with the presidential election. That could be a step along the way to happen. But in the short term, we still have problems. We still have de-dollarization. We still have that debt potential liquidity issue. We have the big debt issue. We have a lot of issues that we have to deal with. We have to deal with the eventual fall of the dollar. No matter what happens, I think the dollar is still going to fall. The real question will be, are we then going to go to the central bank digital currency system promulgated by the BIS and the central banks, which I think is the slavery system, the digital slavery system? Or are we going to go to an alternative system where gold and silver, and we bring back in natural or God's money back into the fold, and the people then re-inherit all the wealth that has been stolen from them over the last so many thousands of years, really, in the United States, really mostly over the last 120. Even before that, I mean, you had the robber barons and stuff before that, and people using the government to steal wealth of the people, for sure, before the central bank even arrived. Are we going to have a reversal of that? I tend to believe so as a Christian. I tend to believe that. But in the short term, I still think that we have some pain there. And I think that we're at an inflection point of this system, and there could be a lot of pain. So what I'm doing, consult your financial advisor, do your own research. I have to say that. But what I'm doing is getting out of debt, living below my means. I'm almost out of debt. We got that much left. And I still have assets. But the debt I have was relatively low rates. I've been paying it off over time on purpose. And as I get that paid off for the next couple of months, by the end of the year, I should be completely out of debt, I'm hoping. Like 100% done with assets, with enough cash to survive, to protect myself, my family, my kids, all that kind of stuff. And for me, it's not about getting rich. A lot of people interpret me doing a financial show as getting rich. It's never really been about that, to be honest. It's about understanding the principles of finance, not being a debtor, getting out of debt, living, below my means, saving in gold and silver because that saves value over time, more than anything else, more than these all derivative assets. And if you want to know that, go back to Exeter's pyramid and look at what ultimately the value flows to when financial problems occur, and that's gold and silver, and they're natural and they're there for a reason. Everything else is some sort of derivative, whether it be Bitcoin or real estate or stocks or even businesses to some extent. Not saying you should get out of those or shouldn't have those. I'm just saying, look at your portfolio and make sure you have enough gold and silver in there to protect not only your portfolio, but really your standard of living, protect your ability to have shelter, your ability to have access to food and things like that. And if you're a prepper, you have been paying attention to either biblical teaching, or maybe you just see what's going on around you and you're like, I got to prep, I got to have food, I got to water. You know, I always recommend that too. I wouldn't go in debt to get it, but if you're getting out of debt and living below your means and you've got some gold and silver, everything, you feel comfortable, you should also be looking at, are you going to have access to clean water if something bad happens? Are you going to have access to food? Do you have a good network of people around you that can help you, that are spiritual and will walk that journey with you, and you walk it with them and responsibility to them? Do you have all the things that you need? Do you have your medications? Do you have shelter taken care of? These are the things that you want to think about. Even though we have a new president in place, it doesn't absolve all the problems from all the past presidencies and Congresses and even bad decisions we've all made in our own financial lives the last 120 years. We still have got to solve that problem. And ultimately, I do think God has this. But, you know, you have to be realistic for what the times we're living in the ground and say, but we are responsible for protecting ourselves and our family. We don't get to make a bunch of bad mistakes and then somebody comes and saves us. It's not how this whole system works. We need to take responsibility now for ourselves. And I think gold and silver is a big part of that. So gold and silver have fallen today. On Twitter, I basically said, you know, same thing. What I'm doing is getting out of debt. I'm almost there. I'm almost 100% there. Living below my means. I've been doing that for a long time. This summer, I went like super below my means, man. It was like my rent, the bills I had to pay. I allowed myself to eat out every once in a while, and that was it. And everything else, you know, I totally just started taking stuff out of my budget. There's a couple more things I got to remove. I got like a TV package or two I got to get out of there. But for the most part, I've streamlined it. And I've been happier doing that, to be honest with you, not having to worry about, you know, managing all those finances and stuff I used to have. Been a blessing to me. It may be a blessing to you, getting out of debt, living below your means, having gold and silver portfolio, looking at these other things, your safety, where you live. Okay, very important that you have that network of people around you, that you're providing skills to society, so you're providing value, because your ability to generate an income for yourself is on the value you're providing to society. So make sure you're updating your skills, whether you're going to school, learning a trade, doing a hobby, which can make side money, any which way that you want to do it, positioning yourself in your job to excel by doing a really good job every day while you're doing these other things is going to be important. Now, as far as gold and silver goes, yes, they've gone down. No, I don't expect this to be long-term because, like I said, the problems haven't gone away. Consumers are more indebted than ever been. We're having more defaults on auto loans, housing loans, credit cards than we've had in 2 generations at least, and that I've seen in any of the economic data since I've been studying it. I would probably dare say our nation's history, although, I mean, if you look at things like the Civil War and stuff, maybe that's not the case, but definitely any time in and around my lifetime and anything resembling, you know, anything since the Federal Reserve was created, you know, we've had the highest debt levels and highest defaults, and that all has to get cleaned out. And so there's economic pain coming, and those that are stewards to their finances and stewards to other people and helping them out, loving thy neighbor and providing value to society are the ones that are going to come out on top. And it's not a function of how much money you have right now. That's the other thing. People that have a lot of money and assets actually probably should be worrying right now. I've talked about the baby boomers, but specifically that highest percentile of the baby boomers and even some other generations like Gen X, but mostly baby boomers. If I'm being honest, that's what holds the wealth, and that's where the super wealth is concentrated. They actually have more to worry about during hard financial times. They have more to lose. They have more stress. They have more leverage. They have more debt. Debt can be used to make more money, but when that system crashes, that debt can extinguish just about everything you have and sometimes break you. There are pictures of during the Great Depression, people jumping out of buildings. You know, I don't want to see anybody go through that. So regardless of what income level you're at, especially if you're rich, you actually have more risk in this monetary transition, this reset that's coming up, than the people who don't have a lot. People don't have a lot. If you have a skill and you're out of debt and you're paying attention to your finances, you have a little gold and silver on the side and a little extra cash when you need it, cash, you know, to pay groceries and stuff, pay your bills. That's really could be one of the best places to be. And I believe that wealth will come to those who haven't been essentially, you know, investing in all this stuff, because all the people that have all this stuff, all these derivative assets are really at risk. Look at Exeter's pyramid. People think that they're rich now, maybe not rich. And going back to gold and silver, we're going to have a retracement. I've been calling for this for a couple of weeks. I thought, yeah, At some point, it'll come down. There was a lot of euphoria leading up to the election. Some people are taking, they're selling their gold and silver and they're taking profits. Remember, it's all determined by the derivative market, not by the physical trade. That could be a buying opportunity for people that want to get in and get some. But for others, it's a warning that all assets can suffer this. Gold and silver, though, are the ultimate value in the system. That's why gold and silver will continue to go up. It may be down for a month. There may be such euphoria that bonds are up, stocks are up, and it goes against what's actually going on in the plumbing of the system. And then gold and silver are down, but that's going to reverse when euphoria dies down. You realize it's going to take a long time to clean out the mess, regardless of all the people that just got elected. If you think they're going to solve the problems, it's still going to take a long time to clean up the mess. It's going to take a long time to get us out of this. We're still going to have the reset. The election of Donald Trump, the additional Republicans in the Senate, and potentially the House, if you believe that would reverse that, and that's what their rhetoric is, and even if they do all the things, you still got to fight the Leviathan of the deep state. You still got to fight the Leviathan of the central bank. All those people that are used to getting benefits, whether it be company owners that get benefits of the money, or the banks that get the benefits of the cheap debt, whatever it is, or the people that get the benefits to pay bills, they're not going to want to see a reduction in that. There are a lot of hard conversations that are coming now after the election. They're going to start in January about what do we do about the financial system? How do we handle the financial system? And there are other worries the administration's got to attack. They got to attack the immigrations. I gave a clue. Immigration is one of the issues I've been talking about. All the issues they're talking about, they got to attack them all. It's not like they can just day one solve all the financial issues on January 6th when it's all confirmed, and that week leading after. It's going to take time. It's going to take time to unravel. So even if you think we have the right people in place, we're still at least months away from really beginning that process. And in the meantime, we could have a credit and liquidity crisis, and we could have all sorts of financial crises. And hopefully not, but we could still have some cultural and political crises if there are people that feel disaffected by this election result and they want to act out. I certainly hope that doesn't happen. Yesterday, I was paying attention to the news on riots. We saw one in Seattle. The police quickly kind of put that down. I didn't see a lot of others. There were a lot of dejection. Will that lead to people doing something? I'm not suspecting it is. I'm not speaking into existence. I certainly hope it doesn't happen. I'm praying that doesn't happen. There are things to think about, but really it's going to be the money masters and how they react to the election, how they control liquidity in the system, the central banks. I'm pointing directly at them. Central banks, I'm pointing at you. The decisions you make from here until the new administration takes office and even after they take office, and the decisions that the administration, the Congress are going to make towards spending and how they're going to cut that and what pain that's going to cause and who it's going to cause and how those people and companies and organizations and individuals react to all that. That all has to be worked out. And in the process, we could still have a banking crisis. We're still having de-dollarization. So I don't see the reason to sell gold and silver physically right now. Let the market sell off. Let them in euphoria sell off the derivative positions. It's a buying opportunity for people that still need to get some and get in and to stabilize their portfolio. And I'm not saying this to get rich on gold and silver. I'm saying to stabilize, to have value, to be able to take care of yourself. If you want to go get rich, that's great. It's not really what my channel is about. If you do, I'm not, I speak abundance. That's great. But really what I am is here to educate people and help them protect themselves through the decision-making process of how they look at their finances through education and research. And do your own, again, disclaimer, do your own research. Don't listen to me, confirm everything I say. If you feel like, consult your financial advisor, do what you got to do. But these are the principles I talk about. It's why you watch the show. And I think you guys understand this. And understand this is going to be a long unwind, and there's going to be very painful stages. And there are people that don't want this to occur because it doesn't serve their purpose. And they tend to be, at least financially, very powerful. Just remember spiritually that God is on our side, that we eventually will end up on top, but just prepare for stages of pain, in a real sense, financial pain. And if you haven't gotten your financial house in order, you may have the most pain. And the second most pain is going to come from those people that have their money in derivative assets thinking they're rich. And then all of a sudden they realize they're not during the crash when that wealth transfer occurs. And the wealth transfer will go to people that simply have gotten out of debt, lived below their means, invested in some gold and silver, and they will reap the rewards ultimately. That doesn't mean the Leviathan's not going to fight it. And that doesn't mean it's not going to take a long time. And it doesn't mean all the damage already done is not going to cause problems. And that's why I say, I'm not telling anybody to get out of gold, silver. I'm not getting out of gold and silver. Now, last thing I want to say, if you're trading this market, a lot of people involved in gold and silver want to trade on a daily basis. They want to get in, they want to get out, and they want to go to platinum, and then they want to go to this other asset. That's never been what my channel is about. I want to make this very clear. Whenever gold either really goes up and it's volatile either way, or goes down, silver especially, people get upset when it doesn't go their way, and they get angry and they say things. When I was posting on Twitter this morning, something I referred to a second earlier, somebody came in and said, gold, silver's down. I'm tired of hearing about you guys. Well, I'm like, what about all the gains we've had this year? And do you think it's going to stay down? And trying to have a conversation. And ultimately, I said to this person, I love you. I said, if you want to believe that, that's fine. I love you. You know, I always will love you. And there was a very derogatory marker made. Some people, and you can identify traders. You can identify traders in social media by the way that they act. If something goes down and goes against them, even a little bit, it becomes a very angry sort of response, because they were hoping just to kind of get rich off of this. And again, I'm going to recommend, this is not what I talk about in my show. If you get rich, great. If that is your path and that's what's supposed to happen for you, great. I'm more about protecting yourself, making sure that you have safety, making sure that you can live a wonderful and abundant life and a spiritual life, and making sure that you don't get caught up in this reset, which is coming. And the reset is coming. Now, if you end up making a lot of money from that, great. But I'm not here for the traders. I'm here for the long term. I'm here to help people get educated. This is one channel you can get educated on, to do the research, to get the education, so you can protect yourselves. You can go live a full life. I mean, finance is not everything, by the way. Go hug your children. Okay. Kiss your babies. Hug your spouse. Go to dinner, or make dinner if you can't afford to go to dinner. Sit down at the dinner table. Go hang out with your friends. Go watch a great movie. Go listen to great music. Okay. Go be spiritual in your life and go live a fulfilling, wonderful life. But the finances is to help you live that wonderful, fulfilling life, to help you keep your labor so it doesn't get stolen, to fight the money masters. Basically, they're trying to rob our wealth, generational wealth, over time, and take everything. That's why we're here. I just want to clarify. If you're a trader, great. You can come to the channel all you want. But if you're trading in and out, a lot of times you'll lose money, and people that get angry have lost their money. They misunderstood the market or mistimed the market. And that's why I don't recommend that in precious metals. Precious metals is a long-term gain. It's long-term value storage that during a reset can actually bring you back the wealth that was stolen from you and restore what was taken from you. And I think that's, that's why I've been talking about it for 15 years. I wanted to deliver that sort of post-election message. Whatever you think that's going to happen during the election, it could happen in the way that you think, but in the short term, we still got issues to deal with. And in the long term, even if they start doing things now, we know that we're past the point of no return on the debt. So in the long term, the debt still has to be addressed, and the central banks still have to be addressed, and the reset still has to occur. And so protect yourselves even more during this time. This should be the message. Protect yourselves even more. Don't have that sense of euphoria that everything's okay just because of one election, and think that the past 120 years, past 200, 300 years don't matter. They do matter. This is one election. It hasn't reversed everything in the financial system. In fact, if anything, it may have empowered certain parties in the financial system to act in a certain way. And that's why you want to protect yourselves even more. That's going to do it. I wanted to keep this under 25 minutes. I've successfully done it. We're right at 24. You guys have a blessed day. Love you guys. We'll be back later this week with more data. I'm going to get back into the data stuff for all the data heads that follow me, the people that love that. I've got a ton of stuff I've been accumulating. We'll go talk about it. We'll talk about the economy. I'll give thoughts on where we may be for the rest of the year in a more practical, data-centric, graphs and all that kind of stuff sense. This one I want to make a tad more spiritual, a tad more practical, and a little bit of a warning not to think that we're out of the woods just yet. We're not. Eventually we will be. But we're going to go through those stages, and you have to protect yourself through those stages. Thanks for joining the program. You guys have a wonderful day. Until next time, Rob Kientz with the Freedom Report.